All right, this is the Unit 3, Lesson 2 Tech Talk, and we're going to be talking about scope and how it works with our three variable declarations. So that is var, let, and const. So var is what we used in our curriculum last year, and I think we're all pretty familiar with variable declaration. I'm using the keyword var. I give my variable a name, I give it a value, and then here I have a function called say hello. It's going to log to the console hello plus name. And the basic idea with scope is that anything declared outside of curly brackets is in the global scope, which means it can be accessed from anywhere. So right now, var name here, my variable, is a global variable. If I want to see how my function works, I can call say hello, and it says hello to me. The other thing we can do is we can have a locally scoped variable. Unfortunately, var is not our guy. Var is not a locally scoped variable, which is why we teach our students let. So here, popcode is giving us this error saying I've already declared name somewhere else, but JavaScript allows you to redeclare variables. And so this would not give you an error in JavaScript, but popcode is super friendly and super helpful, so it gives us that extra help here. If I were to use let here and here, this would not work. And that's why we're getting this red bar here, because this is not a bug in popcode. This is something that JavaScript doesn't allow you to do. And so the error message here is not as helpful to students as the one for var is. So that's one of the reasons why we're switching to let over var. And popcode has some special rails that are preventing us from doing that. But right now, name is still a global variable, and we can reassign it within this function. So often what we'll say is that let is called block scoped. A block is anything in between two brackets. So this is a function block. And so right now I'm declaring name outside of that block. And so I can access it inside of the block because name is a global variable. If I were to declare name inside of the function, it would no longer be a global variable. Now it's a local variable. So here I could try to update name. I could say name equals Carolyn. I just spelled my own name wrong. And if I wanted to, I could give this some kind of name parameter. And again, it's giving me an error here. Okay, so what I went ahead and did was I declared name inside of the function as Emily. I declared the name outside of the function as Carolyn. And I want to run it and see what happens. It's giving me an error. But we should be able to console.log hello plus name. That's not working for me. So popcode's a little bit tricky with using let, and that is something that's been flagged. But we'll look at a different example and try to spend more time thinking about this conceptually and less bogged down in the weeds of what's happening with popcode. All right, let's look at another example here from the slides. In this code, you might want to walk through this step by step with students, even though it's a lightning question and not a turn and talk question. There's really a lot happening here. So in line 1, we're declaring a variable called word, and the value is cat. Then we have this function pluralize, which takes no arguments. It takes word and it updates it by adding an S to the end, and it returns it. Here we call pluralize word, and then we console.log it, and so our output is cats. But if we were to have a parameter here, word, nothing changes. So we might think about what this code should look like a little bit more functionally. We might have my word equals cat, and then here we would pluralize my word and console.log my word. And this might be reminiscent of the pig Latinizer project for some people. So now it's not getting updated here. So we need to update my word. We want to update the value to pluralize to my word, and then console.log it. If instead we went back to the original code here, and we tried to declare our word inside of our scoped block here, it's giving us this error. It's saying you haven't declared word, and I can't console.log it for you because it can't see inside of the scope of these curly brackets. And so that is quick and dirty scope. So now I always like to add a little something extra to these. So I want to talk about const. Const is a greeting type that we haven't really talked about in the curriculum, but it will come up in JavaScript, especially if students are interested in learning about React. It comes up a lot in React. And so const is a really interesting one. It behaves similarly to let in that it's block scoped, whereas var is not block scoped. What makes const different is that I can't update the value. It's giving me this error. Greeting is read only. I can't change it. What I can do with const is if I have an object, I'm making an object here with the first name and the last name. And then I can print out these values. Okay, so I'm getting some error messages with this. And I think, again, it's popcode behavior. But the point that I wanted to make here was that if your const variable type is an object, you can update the values. So I can change the name here. And it's not printing, but I can change this variable when I'm changing the properties. And so that's why const is helpful. And I think it gets much more interesting when we get into talking about objects in the next unit.